Solve the following equation for t and assume no denominators are 0. It says here r is equal to r subscript 0 plus 1 over 11 times a times t squared. So, in this question it says simplify your answer, type an exact answer using radicals as needed, use integers or fractions for any numbers in the expression, and rationalize all denominators. So let's take a look at this question here. So I'm going to write this out. So right now we have r, which is equal to r subscript 0 plus 1 over 11 times a times t squared. Okay, now we can choose to either, because we're isolating and solving for t, so we can either subtract everything by r subscript 0, or let's just eliminate the denominator by multiplying by the LCD. So we're going to go ahead and then multiply by the LCD. Well, the LCD is 11. And how many terms do we have? We have 3 terms. So we're going to multiply 11 times r subscript 0, and then times 1 over 11 times at squared. So let's go ahead and do that. So 11 times r is 11r, which is equal to 11 times r subscript 0 is 11r subscript 0, plus, well, what's 11 times 1? It's 11 divided by 11 is 1. So now all we have now is at squared. Okay, so now since we want to isolate t, we're going to subtract 11r subscript 0 to both sides. So for step 3, we end up with the following. We have 11r minus 11r subscript 0, and that's equal to at squared. Okay, now, in order for us to isolate t, we need to divide both sides by a. So we have 11r minus 11r subscript 0 over a, and that's equal to a divided by a, which is 1, which is t squared. Okay, and so now, and that's step number 4, so let me go ahead and correct that there. So that becomes step 4. Okay, now in step 5, we need to take the square root of both sides. So we have plus or minus the square root of 11r minus 11r subscript 0 over the square root of a, and that's equal to the square root of t squared. Okay, so what's going to happen is that we're going to get t squared, the square root of t squared is t. And so then we get plus or minus the square root of 11r minus 11r subscript 0 over the square root of a. Okay, now we're supposed to rationalize the denominator, so we can't leave the radical in a denominator. So we have 11, the square root of 11r minus 11r subscript 0 divided by the square root of a. So I'm going to put this in parentheses because that is all underneath the radical sign. So in order for us to rationalize a denominator, we got to multiply the numerator and denominator by the square root of a. When we multiply it by a, that means we're going to multiply a times that entire parenthesis. So we should get the radical, the square root of a times 11r minus 11r subscript 0 all over the square root of a squared. Okay, and then we can also factor out the 11 because they both have 11. So this can be 11a times r minus r subscript 0 over the square root of a squared, which is a. So that means that t is going to equal plus or minus the square root of 11a times r minus r subscript 0 over a. Let's go ahead and put our answer in there to check. So we already have the plus or minus out here. So we have our fraction, we have the square root symbol, and then we have 11a times parentheses r minus Okay, since we need a subscript, we're going to select this option here. Well, before we do that, we need to make sure we put in the R first. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's backspace. Okay, so we have R, and then select that, and then we're going to put in the, I believe it's 0. So 0 represents that, and then we're going to go ahead and then close the parenthesis. Okay, so that's going to represent our numerator, and then we're dividing that by A. So let's check our answer, and there is our result.